diagnosed in 1967 at the age of 39, and the doctors were not I don't think they explained things as well then as they do now, because they told me that I had very fast-growing cancer, but they didn't tell me what stage, and I think now they tell you what stage it is. So it was a little harder than it is now. I think we'll get more information about our diagnosis and what we can expect. After my surgery for this breast cancer, the thing that kept me going the most was my experience with the Lord. Then I had 2 boys that I had to keep my spirits up for their sake and not let them be worried about me. There's a lot of things that you have to do whenever you had breast cancer. I just really did appreciate all the help I got from my family and support from my friends. It was fantastic, and I'm really thankful for all of that. I have been a cancer survivor now for going on 41 years. That's really a very great blessing for anybody to have, to be able to live as long as I have and come through that and still know that the Lord will give me more days to enjoy my life and my children's lives.
My mom was diagnosed in 1967. At that age, I was a sophomore in high school, and we spent that evening with Mother in the hospital before her surgery. We just all thought it was going to be a little simple surgery and Mother would be back to doing what she was doing. For those of us in the family, it was a shock to know that we come that close, to losing Mother. And it was tough for all of us, but again, we were pretty active in church at that time, and you take a lot of that stuff to the Lord, and you try to get as much strength as you can get from that, and from others in the family and our friends. So after the initial shock of the surgery and what the doctors had told us, we realized how fortunate we were. Back in the 60s, they didn't have chemotherapy, so she got her radiation treatments, and she had those for quite some time. So we got through that; those ended, and Mother just, Mother's a tough lady. She took it head on, and I know she did a lot of that to probably keep it away from us, and who knows what was going on when she had her silent times with herself. It's kind of ironic, but we drew strength from Mother. The person that was probably the closest to me was my aunt, Jane. She was like a big sister to me. Really, she was a big influence in my life and a big strength for me during that time. And the irony of everything is after Mother pulled through and everything got to going, I was fixing to get married, and we found out that my aunt was diagnosed, and Jane was diagnosed with breast cancer. The tough thing about that is after that, again, it was we had been through it with Mom, so you take those same things that you learned then and try to apply them and try to help Jane and try to stand with her and be with her, and that was as tough probably as having gone through it with my mom. I always remember the phone call she called me from the hospital, and we found out that it was probably a terminal diagnosis, and that was probably the toughest call. For 3 years, again, she had that same constitution as my mom, and she fought it, and fought it as hard as anybody would fight it, with just an outstanding attitude. But she was trying to hang in there till my oldest son was born. She lost that battle. I think it was in February. I know it was in February of '81. So and she passed. A great lady, valiant effort, and she's been sorely missed all these years. She's also an inspiration to a lot of folks. Trust me, the way she carried on in her fight against this terrible disease. So that was a tough part.
Even though I never knew my grandmother, she was an inspiration to my mother, our family, and myself. And it's comforting to know that there are so many people out there who've come together through Susan G. Komen and breast cancer awareness. It's It's incredible to see all these people coming together and trying to make a future where my future wife, our children, and my grandchildren don't ever have to experience the idea of not having a loved one, a grandmother, or any other relative like that. I remember when I first heard that my aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was in college, and I was never fearful for her life in the sense that I knew she would make it through it. She's a fighter. That's just the type of person she is. She's going to find a way to overcome these things. And so I took comfort in knowing that she's the kind of person who can get through these kind of things, and I'm fortunate that it worked out that way.
Talking again about how the two women in my life that I know that fought so hard for the tough times that they had, and also knowing that I had a great aunt that was extremely excited the entire time my mother was pregnant and fought so hard and did want to meet me and lost her battle. It brings comfort, also touching back to what Stephen said about how we do have advancements in medicine and how we know that tests are starting earlier and just the hope that's there. So we wouldn't have to go through some of the hardships that some of these women have gone through in the past, and that makes me feel pretty good.
When our aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer, we probably didn't really even realize what was going on. But certainly when our mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was in high school, a senior in high school, and Jennifer was entering junior high, and I was preparing for college. And it was a difficult time for me to negotiate many emotions. If it had been for some of my very close Zeta pledge sisters, that I would not have gone on to finish college. So I really credit that one moment in time to a very special friend of mine who's here today, Rhonda, with being able to...
Like a second family. I think what was also so hard for our family, through the joy of my experience of knowing I caught it early, everything's going to be okay. Within weeks of my diagnosis and surgery, our cousin Cindy was diagnosed.
But Cindy did lose her battle to breast cancer this past January. Whether they won the battle or they lost the battle, we have women in our family that are determined. And Cindy certainly was determined.
She fought a long time. The most important thing that I would like to share today is that early detection is important. And don't ever be afraid to get a second opinion, because a second opinion actually saved my life.
My mom was diagnosed back in '04 when I was still in elementary school. Well, it took a while to actually get used to the cancer she was going through, because it was like a big change to our lives. And we all prayed and hoped that it would go away.
I just kind of went on like nothing was wrong.
Since Mom died, me and Dad, we've been attending grief counseling, a place called The Warm Place.
Warm Place is a place that you can go, talk, know that there's other people going through the same thing you're going through. It's helped us out a lot. My aunt, my mother, and my wife, they've all had cancer. Stop wondering why we're having to deal with it. I guess we're not supposed to know why.
Well, by the future, they better have a cure or something before anyone else gets hurt.
I was diagnosed last year, May, with triple negative breast cancer. I was stage 3 when I was diagnosed. My treatment was to have chemo first and then surgery. The rate of growth But this cancer was, there was no choice but to do the chemo first. By the time they got to surgery, the tumor was gone. There was no cancer left, but I did have to do radiation. So I chose to go out to California to do hyperthermia with low-dose radiation. I finished treatment in January of this year. Through this whole experience, I've never felt like it was a bad experience. I felt glad that I went through it, learned so much through it, through all the research, and feel now that I'm kind of on a mission to help other people through it and learn some of the things that I learned through diet and through alternative treatments or integrative treatments. And that's my story.
The day my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, she just looked me in the eyes and didn't really say anything. And I had known that day she was going in for a test. Like, I knew it wasn't good. That moment, everything kind of just seemed like a big blur. I didn't really think it was real as my mom was going through chemo. She didn't have her hair, and she was very, very weak, but she still was smiling, and she seemed like her normal self. Like, she didn't really have a different kind of attitude about it. My mom was flown out to California for a different kind of treatment, and she happened to be gone for about 4 months, which was hard, but I knew it was for a good reason. The time my mom got back from California, she was cancer-free. I honestly think she was better than when she first was diagnosed. She had this new way of life and was very just positive, and now my sister helped her through the way and researched a lot, and now I feel like it not only helped my mom, and it kind of provided a future for my sister as well as far as research for breast cancer. And I think it brought our family a lot closer.
Hi, my name is Meredith Calkins and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a sophomore this year at TCU, and I became a member of Zeta Tau Alpha last August. Just 2.5 weeks after I pledged Zeta, my mom came back to Texas on a surprise visit, sat me down, and told me that she had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer that they had caught late and had spread to her lymph nodes. She had found out a couple days before she moved me to Texas, but wanted to wait until I had settled in and joined a sorority to tell me the news. It was so hard knowing that my mom had to go through all of this with me being so far from home. I felt helpless. I had to rely on text messages and phone calls from my dad and sisters to know how my mom was doing and how treatment was going, how her surgeries, everything like that. And I also felt guilty. I was over here trying to enjoy myself, trying to have a normal college experience, all while knowing that my mom was at home suffering and going through all of this stuff without me there. I honestly can say that I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without my sorority sisters and without our involvement in our philanthropy. This experience has showed me how strong my mom is and has brought our family so much closer together. It amazes me that my mom could teach my family and friends this strength and courage all while she was sick and struggling. I'm proud to say that my mom is now 5 months cancer-free.
As a breast cancer survivor, I've had 11 years of working not only with Zeta and with the TCU Frogs for the Cure. I started working with the Race for the Cure in Fort Worth with its inception, and about 2 weeks after the race in 2000, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was found with my mammogram, not with my monthly checkups, and I did decide to have a mastectomy. I was given a choice of that or radiation, and I did choose to have a mastectomy. And so for 11 years I have been cancer-free. I've been supporting both Race for the Cure and Frogs for the Cure at TCU. I've worked with Komen in many areas. I'm service chairman, so I'm the one that gets the people together to participate and volunteer at the Race for the Cure. And what a marvelous thing we are doing, not only as a community here in Fort Worth, but at TCU, supporting this wonderful cause, and hopefully one of these days there will be a complete cure.
I remember when my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, I couldn't believe it. I think the worst thing my mother's ever had was a headache. And so you can only imagine my whole family just devastated, not knowing if my mother was going to be around. And fortunately, she decided to have a mastectomy, and we did not have to go through all the troubles that a lot of people have with chemo and radiation. But I think the biggest thing is that my mother's attitude through all of this has just been amazing. And she did not let it stop her. She didn't pause. She just kept going, and her mission was to, okay, get involved and help the community, and I'm not worried about me or myself and how this is impacting me. Let's keep going. And she's a true testimony, amazing survivor, and hopefully there will be a cure in this little one's lifetime. And I'm just glad that my mother had her checkups, and I hope everybody else does, because that is how we got it, and that is how this little one gets to have her grandmother now. So it means a lot to us.